love trigonometry. There are just so many things that we can use with trigonometry and solve with trigonometry, and here's one of them, solving right triangles using trigonometry. But I'd first like to review the trigonometric ratios that we will use in this video. You can see below that I have labeled a triangle, and the angle that I'm referring to, I'm always going to use the angle theta. Then, if you go across from the angle theta, we will call that the opposite side. If you go next to the angle theta, we'll call that the adjacent side. And then if you go across from the right angle, we'll call that the hypotenuse. The first trigonometric ratio is sine. We abbreviate that sine of theta equals. Sine is the ratio of the opposite side over the hypotenuse. And I'll abbreviate that here as the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse. Next is cosine. Cosine is abbreviated like that. And cosine is the ratio of the adjacent side divided by the hypotenuse. And then finally, there is tangent. There's actually 3 others, but in this video, we're only going to talk about sine, cosine, and tangent. The tangent ratio is the side opposite divided by the side adjacent. And you may have heard the wording SOH-CAH-TOA, and it comes from this. So sine is the ratio of opposite over hypotenuse. That's SO. CA, cosine, is the ratio of adjacent over hypotenuse. And then TOA, tangent, is the ratio of opposite over adjacent. All right, so we're about to try some problems, but before we do that, please make sure to click subscribe. That way you're informed when new math videos come out in the future. In our first example, we have to decide, are we going to use sine, cosine, or tangent? So let's look at where our angle is. So here is our angle right there. I notice that I am given the angle, I'm given the side across from the angle. So I'm given the opposite side, or I guess I want to find the opposite side, and then I am given the side right next to the angle, and the side that's not the hypotenuse, and that's the adjacent side. All right, which trig function uses the opposite side and the adjacent side? That is tangent. So I'm going to set up a tangent ratio to solve this right triangle. My equation would be the tangent of, and this time I know the angle. The angle is 23 degrees. Equals the side opposite, that's x, the side I want to find, divided by the side adjacent, which is 2. Now we need to solve for x and then plug it in our calculator. To solve for x, I'm going to multiply both sides by that denominator of 2. And then I would have x equals 2 times tangent of 23 degrees. Now we're ready to type that into our calculator. Here is what I've typed into my calculator. And so my answer, let's say I rounded to 2 decimal places, would be 0.85 as my final answer. If you did not get that answer, the first thing I would check for is go to your mode. Make sure you are in degree mode because our angles here are in the unit of degrees. Let's try another problem. All right, in this problem, let's go ahead and circle the angle and look at which sides I have. So I do have the side across from the angle, which is the side opposite. And then it looks like the side I'm trying to find is the hypotenuse. So I think back to myself, which trigonometric ratio uses the opposite and hypotenuse? That's sine. So I'm going to set up a sine equation. That would be sine of 20 degrees equals the side opposite, 3 divided by the hypotenuse, which is x. Now time to solve for x. The first thing I always do is I multiply both sides by the denominator, no matter if it's a number or a variable, so that those cancel. I'm left with x times sine of 20 degrees equals 3. I still don't have x alone. To do that, I need to divide both sides by the sine of 20 degrees. So that those cancel, and it looks like I'm going to be typing into my calculator 3 divided by the sine of 20. This is what I typed in my calculator, and so my answer rounded to 2 decimal places would be 8.77. And we just solved for the length of the hypotenuse. Let's try one more example. Right, let's go ahead and circle that angle. This time, looks like I know the side right next to the angle, which is not the hypotenuse, and I call that the adjacent side. Then it looks like I do have the side across from the right angle, which is the hypotenuse. All right, we're going to use the third trig function we haven't used yet, and that's because when I have the adjacent side and the hypotenuse, that would be cosine. My equation is cosine of the angle, always comes next, which in this case is 72 degrees, and that would equal the ratio of the adjacent side, or 5, divided by the hypotenuse, which is x. All right, time to solve for x. The first thing I always do is I multiply both sides by that denominator. In this case, it's x. Now I have x times cosine of 72 degrees equals 5. One more step to solve for x, and that is to divide by the cosine of 72 degrees. So into my calculator, I will be typing 5 divided by cosine of 72 degrees. Once again, I will make sure I am in degree mode. It looks like I have an answer of x equals 16.18, and that is the length of the hypotenuse of this triangle. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video useful, make sure to click subscribe right now in the lower right-hand corner so that you're notified when new math videos come out.